you know, it wouldn't surprise me if some of you thought that I was just a city slicker, but throw me in an epic landscape like we have here at Wilson's Promontory, Tidal River. Here it is, Tidal River, because the river appears when the tide goes out. And I am absolutely in my element. I love the epicness of nature. And here we are on the 18 to 140 APS-C lens. I've got it on the Z7 because why not? It can do APS-C just as well as the rest of them. And I thought we'd check it out here in these conditions. It's been pretty harsh, it's been hot, it's been humid, and there's been a massive thunderstorm. But this is epic. All right, well, the sun has set and we're at ISO 400 and we are at 1/50th of a second. Amazing. This is still looking amazing. And who is this lens for? Who should buy it? Well, let's talk about it for a second. This is the cheapest, smallest, lightest super zoom that you can buy for the Z mount. Now, you can make something better with the Z50 kit that goes longer. When I say better, it goes longer and wider, but it's two lenses, and maybe you just want one lens. You also might say, what about the 24 to 200 full frame zoom? Why shouldn't I get that? Well, it is a little bit wider at 24. It is a little bit longer when you crop it. And of course, this lens is cropped the whole time. It goes to 210. That full frame lens goes to 300 when it's cropped. So look, it gives you more, but it's 40 to 60% more expensive. It is heavier and it is slightly larger. And it could well be that you just want a lens in your bag that's just there all the time. For emergencies, for parties, for when something happens, or you just want to travel as light and as affordably as possible. This is that lens. And it can go across any Z camera, from a ZFC, Z50, Z7, all the way up to a Z9. Yes, indeed. If I had a Z9, I would show it together, because these are kind of, they're two objects that are either end of the spectrum, yet they will still work perfectly together. How good's that? That's the power of the Z mount and optically what Nikon are doing. So this lens is for everybody. You might be a pro and you've got the 2.8 Trinity, but you just want a lens that's going to cover everything when you're with the family or you're out like I am at sunset on the beach, and you just want to be as light as possible. You don't want a set of 3 lenses that cost you $5,000 that give you a similar result. It's really interesting stuff, and I think this is showing that Nikon is giving us options, and I like that. I like it. Now, I want to start off here with the close focus minimum distance. Now, as you will see, it's unnecessarily close. Yes, look, I'm a little disheveled. I'm on holidays with my kids. But this lens is quite an all-rounder. You can get very, very close. And another thing I wanted to touch on was the composite lens mount. Now, this is a debate that rages on, and I suppose Nikon does this for a couple of reasons. It's to keep the cost down for them and for us. It's to keep the weight down for them and for us, because there's some people where they will carry this lens around the world with them. They'll be on aeroplanes and whatever else. Now, I know there's probably not that big a difference in weight, and there's probably not that big a difference in cost. And people have said, then why do you do it? Why not just have a metallic lens mount? Well, there's got to be a reason, doesn't there? And my theory is, well, composites, you know, spaceships are made out of composites these days, cars and, you know, all sorts of things. So I kind of feel like it's something that we just simply shouldn't be worrying about. But I just think it's going to go the distance for the type of usage that it's expected to do. Anyway, this view, crazy. Close minimum focus, very close, and we can see it's 7 o'clock here. Probably still about an hour until the sun goes down.
I mean, this lens really is quite amazing. I actually think it's really amazing for what it is, where it fits in, whether you want to shoot it on a Z50 for your 20 megapixels, a ZFC for your 20 megapixels, or you shoot on a Z7 like some of these images are here. We're on the Z7, we're on the 18 to 140. And you're getting just shy, I think it's 19.5 megapixels. This is what you can expect. This is just a beautiful image. I've done very little to it. We can see here I've brought the exposure down slightly. I've made it black and white. I've increased the crunch, the contrast, by pulling up clarity and structure, but there it is. Now, this is handheld, ISO 100, 1/25 of a second, 4.2. That's 36 mil, so that'll be out around 50 mil, just over 50 mil, 50, 53, 54 mil. Another image from the same area. Again, what I'm showing here with these is, even with a lens that's f4 and beyond, you can still get depth of field. You just have to work out what your foreground is here. And if we get in here, we can see beautiful detail of the raindrops. And we have a pretty small area that's in focus. So if you're creative, you can still get short depth of field even with a lens like this. Now, we're not wide open. We're at 30 millimeters. And of course, we're at f4. We can't go down to the minimum f-stop, which we can see, of course, is 3.5. Again, another similar image. Just I loved these textures here. Every single day, a slightly different path is taken by this river. Obviously, it remains much the same, but this bank here is built and rebuilt every day. The tide comes in and covers all of this over. It's just beautiful nature at work. I mean, we are quite wide angle, and we're at f4, but we're still getting out of focus background area. So don't think that you can't do it. And just to show you here, not a lot done to this file. Exposure down slightly. Sorry, there is a adjustment there at the top to make the sky a little bit darker. That's all. Otherwise, this background layer, not a lot done. I've brought up the shadows a little bit, brought down the exposure a little bit, and that's it. And in this layer, I've cranked up the contrast just to bring the sky out some more. But these are minor edits from my perspective. I just love this because of the detail. Like, again, you might say to yourself, oh, this is such an affordable super zoom lens. Surely it can't create a beautiful outcome like this. This is the fresh sand with heavy rain falling in it, creating this sponge-like look. And it's just gorgeous and sharp. And this might look great in black and white as well. I have to work on it a bit to get it the way that I normally like it. I don't like the mid-tones being as much as they are. But anyway, there you go. Now, it was just such an outstanding afternoon. We got 2 days here in the wilderness, or 2 sunsets, and the first one we just turned up and ran to the beach very quickly, and I just grabbed whatever camera I had, which happened to be the Z7 with the 24 to 72.8. The second day I did a much more long and protracted walk around the beach in rather heavy rain, and at 1/50th of a second f4, and we can just see here how good that looks. Minor adjustments. I just love everything that's going on here. Now, this is a 5K screen that we're recording. I know it goes down to 4K. Again, this is 20 megapixels, and there's a lot of information here. We're at ISO 64. The sun has been set now for around about half an hour. Again, we're getting even darker. 13th of a second, ISO 400. I've brought it up a little bit. It's getting even darker now. I reckon the sun's been down for about half an hour. and ISO 400, 1/13 of a second, f4, 18mm. But again, this is just showing what you can do after dark. There is no city lights. We are miles from civilization. This is just ambient light. This is handheld, ISO 400. If we look down here, ISO 400, 1/13 of a second, f4, 18mm. I love this shot. The sun's been down definitely half an hour, and I just think that's glorious. It's telling the story. And I'm not really even interested in pixel peeping at an image like this. The information's there, the data's there, it's looking pretty good. I've hardly done anything to it. I've cranked up the color a bit. Doesn't really matter which way you go. You could turn it down, it still looks great. My point being is this lens is so flexible. It's so flexible. Here's my kids the next day. Now, my kids don't want a star on YouTube, so that's as much as we see of them. But you can see here we go from darkness to full sunlight. We're at ISO 64, 1/500th of a second, f 4.8 at 45mm. Everything is rendered magnificently. That's 100%, and it's all there. Lots of detail. Again, we're still on the Z7, but the Z7 is cropped, so we are using the center of the Z7. Just lots of detail in this lens. This is super bright. I don't see any chromatic aberration. Again, this is the sort of situation where you might see chromatic aberration on the corners of these reflections. Just doesn't seem to be there. I'm not sure what Nikon have done with this lens, but I haven't seen a lot of it, and I'm impressed so far. Again, we're just shooting straight out to the water. This is Squeaky Beach, near where we were staying. This is a place we went to on the way out. And you can see over here, I've done nothing. All this is the profile that Capture One adds to it, but I've done nothing to this file. This is straight out of camera, ISO 64 on the Z7, 1/2000.5, f4, wide open. It's looking good. Now, I don't think Capture One probably has a profile for this lens yet, so maybe what we're seeing here in the corners in the way of vignetting is the lens. I'm guessing it is. Of course, vignetting is not really something that you need to worry about in this day and age. I actually quite like vignetting, and I often add it back in when it's not there. But as you can see, it is removable, and you've just got to decide what you like. But I actually prefer it El Natural. There's something very photographic. That's something nostalgic about that. There's something that I'm just happy to see personally. This is my 9-year-old taking photos of me, and here we are just getting a sense of the detail. And at 100%, I just think this is rendering beautiful color. Now, I want to show you over here, no settings. This is straight out of camera. Boom. Just I set it manually, and off we go. Just looking great. Look at that blue sky. I mean, that's what our skies actually look like. They are crazy.
Let's talk about why this is such a great and flexible lens, because you don't just have to think about it as a Z50 or ZFC lens. I've got it on the Z7. I'm still getting almost 20 megapixels when I take a still, and of course I'm still getting 4K. How good's that? And here we are, we're walking along this amazing landscape. This is just handheld. I'm actually just holding the grip of the camera. And I think the fact that there's in-body image stabilization in the Z7, Z5, Z6, Z6 II, Z7 II, Z9, and there's stabilization in the lens, I think it's very smooth in this sort of situation. I mean, how good does this look? It's just so good. So even if you're a pro and you've kind of got, let's say you've got the Trinity, really expensive, great glass, and then you just want the cheapest possible option to throw a lot of power in your pocket, yeah, let's call this the power in your pocket lens. I think this is it. Well, certainly it for the cheapest money, that's for sure. Nothing happens. We're at 1/160th f6, ISO 64. at the beautiful Wilson's Promontory tidal river. And we've had a major thunderstorm come through. Well, this thing's perfect. Now I'm just holding this at arm's length. Of course, it's very light. I've got face detect on. This is just with the on camera microphone. Hopefully it sounds all right. You can see this absolutely glorious landscape. We've got the beautiful clouds on the hills over there behind me. I'm sure you can see that. Just absolutely divine. It just doesn't get better than this, does it? Now it's raining, and I know that it'll be fine, this level of rain, low level of rain. Alright, so if we go this way, straight ahead, along the river, although the tide has come in, we get to the ocean. So let's go. This absolutely epic landscape. We've moved over to the road mic now because it's a bit windier, and in the far distance there you can see people surfing out on those waves. We'll get a bit closer to them. But we're full stretch. We're at the 210mm equivalent. Just going to bring up the exposure a little bit. 1/60th. So we're at 1/160th f 6.3. That's the minimum when we're at full reach. 64 ISO on the Z7, and that's looking good. Now, I'm going to zoom all the way out here, crash zoom, and there you have it. Let's just make that a little bit darker, but that is now 1/320th at f3.5, ISO 64 on the Z7, and we are at 18mm, which is a 27mm equivalent, with an hour to go until sunset. This thing just performs, gives you what you need.
And this concludes part 1 of the 18 to 140 review. The rest of this review was shot in the Big Smoke in the city. More to come, some images from that upcoming video following now. Join me for the next video, part 2, where we talk more about this amazing little compact lens. It's been so fantastic to have you here. Please, if this is your first time here, I'd love to see you again, so please do subscribe. Please share and like. Don't forget channel memberships and merch. I will talk to you so soon. Bye for now.
ISO 400, and we are wide, and this is just so stable. Honestly, it's just so stable. As a travel camera, this is ridiculous because it just looks like nothing. And with this lens, I mean, it's so flexible. I mean, we are here half an hour after dark.